This is normal chess, and this is chess 3D, a chess variant in which you play inside of a three-dimensional cube instead of on a square. Every piece moves differently so it can actually move through this three-dimensional environment. Oh, and also later on we will create a bunch of completely new pieces with movement perfect for playing in 3 dimensions. Let's start. Alright, so we will start with the actual cube itself, which of course cannot be 8x8x8 like a normal board, as that board would have 512 little cubes to move on, which is way too much. That's why instead of that, our cube will be only 6x6x6, which only has 216 cubes. That's still a lot, but not as much. I'm gonna represent this board by stacking 6 boards on each other, so that we can actually see every piece, and on which square it's sitting. Alright, but we gotta put some pieces on this board. And I think we can start from the pawns, or rather, 3D pawns. Okay, but before we can place the 3D pawns on the board, we gotta know how they actually move. So let me explain that real quick. Okay, so the 3D pawn moves very much like a normal pawn. Its movement is just kind of adjusted for this third dimension that we have here. I mean, you can literally copy the movement from its 2D version, and then paste them into our 3D cube. And that's exactly what we will do actually. Okay, so first the 2 squares forwards movement is now turned into a 2 square upwards movement like this. After that we've got the squares that our pawn captures on, and those instead of simply being diagonally from the pawn, well, they are diagonally, but upwards and to the sides like this. Also there are 4 of these squares now because we simply have the possibility to move in more directions now, so, yeah. That's how the 3D pawn's movement looks like, except of course after its first move, it can no longer go 2 squares upwards, but 1. And besides all that, when it reaches the end of our cube it can promote to every other piece on the board, except for the king of course. Okay, let's place these pawns where they belong, which is on the second, let's call it floor of our cube on the first 2 ranks. Alright guys, let's go on to the next piece, the 3D knight. Okay, so in this variant the knight will be located over here, safely under our set of pawns. Okay, but that's not what we really care about. What we care about is its movement. And so here's how it moves. It moves exactly like its normal self, in a 2x1x0L, except now it's not only on a square, but also in every possible direction, even upwards and downwards. This is what it looks like. And guys, I know it looks kinda confusing, but don't worry, you'll get used to this. Okay, next up there's a bishop, 3D version. Alright, so with the 3D bishop it's the same thing essentially. It moves diagonally in every direction infinitely far, except not only on the x and y axis plane, but also on the x and z plane and the y and z plane. This is what that basically looks like. Hopefully that explanation made at least a little sense, because trust me guys, it's not easy to explain how these pieces move in 3D. For a bit more clarity, here's what this looks like on the board. Hope this helps, and let's get to the next piece, which you thought would be the rook. But nope, just to switch it up, I'm gonna go with the 3D queen now. Alrighty, so the 3D queen, just like the normal one, combines the bishop and the rook, although this time obviously they're 3D versions. But wait, to combine the 3D bishop with the 3D rook, we gotta know how the 3D rook moves like. Alright, let me explain how the 3D rook works then. Okay, so it's nothing too complicated here guys. The 3D rook moves almost exactly like the 2D rook, just like all the pieces so far really, simply all the way to the left, to the right, forwards, backwards, and also upwards and downwards. That's it, it's pretty simple. And now that I'm explaining this, I'm realizing that the 3D rook is actually a lot weaker than the 3D bishop. The 3D bishop moves to twice as many squares as the rook, which is weird. Usually it's the rook that is stronger, but anyways. Let me stop yapping and show you the 3D queen. Okay, I think I pretty much already explained how this piece moves, like, obviously it just combines the 3D bishop with the 3D rook. And now that you know how the queen moves, I'm gonna place the pieces I've already explained on the board. Alright, nice. Now let's go on to the 3D king, after which I'm gonna cover all the new 3-dimensional pieces, all which are very interesting, trust me. Okay, so here's the 3D king, and I think all of you can guess how it moves, literally like a queen, but only 1 square out, so pretty much just around himself. There is no castling in this variant at all, and instead of having to checkmate your opponent's king, you just gotta capture it. This also means that there are no checks in this game, or anything like that. Alright, we have all of the normal pieces done, and so now let's create those new pieces I was talking about all this time. First up is the 3D unicorn. It looks just like our knight, except with a horn on his head. Although it doesn't only look similar to the knight, it also moves very similarly to it. That's because it moves in an L in every direction as well, except this time this L is 2x1x1, meaning that 1 square in the 3rd dimension is added to that L. And by the way, it's the first time that a piece's movement utilizes this 3rd dimension. Every piece before just used their normal movement, but they kinda rotated it, if you know what I mean. Well anyways, this piece actually uses this cube's full potential is what I'm trying to say. This is what this movement looks like in action. Pretty cool, not gonna lie. Okie dokie, next piece, come here. Oh hello brother, guys please welcome the 3D Super Bishop. So this right here is the 3D Super Bishop. I know its name sounds quite dangerous. And it looks pretty scary as well, although let me tell you, it isn't actually that powerful. I mean the normal bishop can literally move to more squares than it. I named it like that because it is super three-dimensional, just to clarify. The way it moves is also super interesting though. But let's stop the yapping and get to how it moves finally. Okay. So the normal bishop was moving diagonally through the edges of the cube, so to speak. I'll probably throw some animation on the screen to hopefully show it off properly, but anyways, the super bishop will actually move through the corners of these cubes, utilizing the third dimension once again. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to illustrate it correctly on the screen, so hopefully you understand. You can think of it like the super bishop having 1 by 1 by 1 movement, and the normal bishop having 1 by 1 by 0 movement basically. Okay, next up is the 3D Amazon. The Amazon is normally an insanely powerful piece, and that is even more so in 3D chess, because more dimensions equal to more squares, or I guess I should say cubes, to be able to move to. Anyways, the Amazon normally combines the queen's movement with the knight's movement. And guess what guys, I literally did the same thing here in 3D chess. Wow, what a surprise. I debated also adding the 3D unicorn to the mix here, but then I decided against it, as I didn't want to create like an absolute monster of a piece here that realistically would only destroy the fun and would just move everywhere. That'd be pretty bad for this variant. Okay, we've got the 3D Amazon done. Although before we jump to the next piece, let's place this another portion of pieces into the cube. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's go on to the 3D Pope. Okay guys, I know what you'll say, this Pope looks kinda stupid. And you know what, I have to agree, I don't know what I was thinking while drawing this guy, but we have to deal with it now, whatever. Besides this not so great of a drawing, the Pope is a very strong piece. It's sort of similar to the bishops from this variant, and it actually combines their movements, to be perfectly honest. So yep, this is how the Pope moves like. Quite nice. On to the next one now. Meet the 3D Super Knight. This is what he looks like. Quite scary, just like the Super Bishop. And when it comes to how it moves, well, let's just say he is real powerful. That's because once again, this piece combines the movements of two other pieces. You can probably guess what these pieces are, but if not, I'll tell you that it combines T-Knight and the Unicorn. That combination over here creates a real strong 3D movement, so yeah, beware. Alright guys, and now it's time for the last piece of this update, the 3D Camel. The 3D Camel looks like a camel. I know you would never think of that, but anyways, you are probably curious about how this last piece moves, so let me explain. Alright, so unlike most of the pieces in this video, the 3D Camel will not move that similarly to the 2D version of it. That's because it moves in a 2x2x1 which gives this weird result. I mean, it can move like a knight but 2 floors up. Quite weird. But anyways, that piece is done. Let's place every piece on the board. And boom, 3D chess is completed. If you guys want to play this variant, there's a link in the description. Oh, and also check out my Patreon. If you subscribe with the dragon level, you'll get access to a lot of extra variants, as well as the ads will disappear from my website. Alright, that's pretty much it. See you guys in the next video.